One of the things that we say about this focus on the function leaders and how they drive value today is that they are an absolute linchpin position, our research shows, in the overall organization's effectiveness. And businesses underinvest in this function leader position, sadly. That's not the case for the two organizations that are represented by my great guests. As an executive coach and leadership development professional, I get to work with hundreds of leaders and different organizations. And I have to say, these two organizations are stellar ones. Sunt Construction, MDA has long worked with, and CH Robinson. We've partnered with them in many capacities over many years. And among all the leaders I've worked with, we are lucky to have two today who I really admire for their thoughtfulness and for their effectiveness. These are two really strong leaders, and I'm grateful they're taking some time out today to sit down with us and to bring their wisdom to the table. Look at this developmental elements slide, and while we do, I think I'll tee up Stephanie again and Linus to comment, but also ask our participants or our registrants to comment in the chat. Many of you are HR and training and learning specialists, so you'll know that these kinds of elements are huge for accelerating the development of leaders at all levels, but especially at the function level. MDA tries to orchestrate a kind of ecosystem or robust set of developmental elements. And you can see the ones that are the ingredients, we believe, of really effective learning experiences. I know that, again, we've got two folks who have experienced those learning events, and I'd love to have you comment on maybe an element that you found really helpful for your own development. And Stephanie, could we again have you weigh in?
Sure. We had a big action learning component of our LEAP program that was just so helpful. So they took our group and they broke us up and assigned us teams. So I had a team of 4 other people from across the organization. And then they assigned us a real organizational challenge and asked us to spend the better part of a year working on it. And so we got lots of coaching in how to think creatively, to do iterative kind of thinking and design thinking. It was so it challenged us to think differently and to work on the business, not just in the business, which I think is a great growth opportunity for people who are aspiring to move up and who are future leaders of an organization. And of course, it was really fun, and not only was it skill building, and not only were we providing value, I think, to the organization, but it was really fun, and it was a really good opportunity to develop relationships with people who hopefully I'll continue to work with throughout my career here at Sunt. You know, we're all identified as future leaders of the organization, so I hope we'll all be around for a long time. And now I have friends in other parts of the organization that I can call on when I have problems. They're trusted, and it's been really helpful to have that. So, you know, I work in a support function. I don't work in operations, but a lot of times I need to think about a project to support operations, or at least be mindful of operational priorities. And it's great to now have some friends in operations who I can call and say, I need a candid, insightful take on this particular thing that I'm facing. I want to make sure I don't leave operations out of this conversation. And I have those people now, and it's just great. It's great. And I'll conclude by just sharing one little anecdote, Jim. I don't know if you remember this, but early, I was designated our team leader, probably because I knew the least about our problem of anybody else, so they thought that would make me a good leader, because I wouldn't come with biases and, you know, preconceived notions. So I was the team leader on our organizational challenge, and of course all the people on my team, they're my peers in the organization. And at one point I was struggling to get everybody to, you know, stay on task and follow through, and that it was challenged from a leadership perspective. And Jim, you and I had a quick coffee one day where I said, it's just really hard to lead a team of people who don't work for you. If they worked for me, I would know exactly how to do this, but they don't. And that makes it really hard. And you said, yeah, that's the point. That's what leadership, as you get further along in your career, that's more and more what it consists of. It's leading people who are at your level. It's leading your peers. It's leading people who work for you, in a sense, is easy. Leading people who don't work for you is much harder. And it was like a light bulb went off. I went, Oh, yes, I see that now. I hadn't really seen it before. So it was
Absolutely.
great.
Your organization did tremendous work there, and we're at MDA such big believers in let's play with live ammunition. You know, that's the best way to learn is to dig in on serious, complex business issues that we face. And and at different levels, you may not be able to invest in action learning. At this level, it is a fundamental for great deep learning and for real results, cost savings, process changes, serious things get solved. It's called action learning because there's action, and as you noted, learning and development deeply embedded in it. And we believe, yes, you know, today's virtual environment, distributed learning, self-paced learning, micro learning, wonderful. Yes, and at this level, you need deep social learning. You're developing individual leaders, but you're also developing the leadership culture. You and Stephanie, your cohorts, you're the next gen leaders. And you deepen the network, you have a deeper understanding of the business and how to operate together. So that's critical at this stage. Love it. Linus, thoughts on any of these elements that were important to you in your development?
Yeah, I was smiling when you were talking because I'm going to pile on and kind of dovetail into to some of the conversation. The thing that was probably the most impactful for me, and I worked with you a lot on, Jim, was that reflection piece, and not only reflection, but leveraging the value of assessment and insights, because I don't think we can ever really see ourselves through other people's eyes, and those assessments sort of allow us to do that. And so I was thinking, Stephanie, when you were talking about all the times where I'm like, I used to be in charge of one team and that was my primary function. Now I'm on all these other teams, teams of peers, teams of my bosses, you know, these different project teams where I don't have the ultimate authority. And so it kind of goes back to some of that influencing piece. And if you really get to the root and the heart of that, you know, I think knowing how you show up, seeing how understanding how you show up to others and how they react to you, having strong emotional intelligence skills, being able to manage through ambiguity. At the heart of all of that, I think, is reflection with strong leveraging the assessment piece. And the assessments that we went through during this exercise were really a nice, 360 view of above you, a lot of your peers and below you, so you could see how different groups that you were interacting with not only experienced you in different ways, but then you could leverage that to, kind of tailor your communication style and your leadership style and your influencing style. So I really felt like that reflection combined with assessment was critical for really being able to drive a lot of that change and influence others.
Just the assessment was the first time that I learned that being a perfectionist isn't always a good thing.
Right.
Overused strengths, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I learned that under pressure, perfectionism turns into micromanagement, and to be aware of that, and that was really insightful. I had not really ever made that connection before.
That's super. I mean, I almost will refuse to do any serious developmental experience without some measure of assessment insights, right? Because that awakens the learner and focuses their learning in really important and powerful ways. And again, we're talking about the investment here in function leaders. That's huge for them to understand the transition here, and the scope of their responsibility means those insights are invaluable. And here's the key too, that's just about the time that the research shows that the feedback you're getting is thinning out. You are not getting the vital feedback you need. You're starting to fly blindly because you've reached a level of authority where you don't get the honesty. People are, as best you try, you're not getting as much of the direct and honest feedback as you really need, just when you're leaning into uncomfortable, new, more complex challenges, right? So those assessments and the ability to reflect either with a coach or to find the discipline yourself to do that, hugely important. Great. Well, let's look at the next slide, because I'm excited to note that, Linus, you went through our function leader development experience as a classroom-based experience. We took the next step, right, of taking the research on the function leader and turning it into a learning experience. And of course, we're in the virtual world now. So for the very first time, that open enrollment learning experience, we don't like to even call it program, because it truly is an experience that happens over months. That is happening this March as a fully virtual experience. So this is our kind of journey map. I'm very excited to be working with our team as we prepare to launch that in February with some assessment and coaching of those who will take part. As you look at this, you can see on the baseline, there's strong coaching support for this journey and a full learning platform we use for asynchronous interaction of all those who are involved. This will be about 20 or 25 function leaders from all different industries. Those 4 inner circles are the live learning events. So for 4 successive Tuesdays in March, we will be live together, working on one of the 5 roles for excellence in functional leadership. And on either end, as I say, there's a ramp up of assessment and coaching. And on the other end, we continue the journey with some post-session development. We continue to stay connected via our social platform and via coaching. And so this is the kind of design that we believe those in our profession increasingly need to look at. So you've got a critical leadership level in your pipeline, and you use those developmental elements that we talked about to really create a robust experience. It deepens their network of learners. It deepens the reflection that Linus talked about and the talent insights from the assessment. And it deepens that skill building that Stephanie talked about. And if done as an on-site, it has, as Stephanie experienced, the ability for a whole cohort from one business to work on business challenges and really become that next generation of leader. So we're excited about that. Would love to have others join us on that if they have function leaders who had the opportunity, and we believe it's now. There's no time like now to take a little bit of step back. Don't need to travel to this event to be more thoughtful, to dig in on your own learning, and then to be more effective in your leadership. Let's go to that next slide. If you're thinking about your investments, we've tried to make the case that function leaders are a really overlooked but potent place to accelerate results in your organization. And while many are trying to figure out when to do that, I think the time is now. Of course, there's always more and more work to be done. But if you look at it, we have the growing crisis fatigue. If we continue to have our pedal to the metal for a long time, we're going to create burnout. Do we create opportunities, rewards for those who have been working so hard for so long now? And this is a time for them to get clearer than ever about what leadership matters. So many are craving the connections that they can get in a strong, robust social learning programs of the types we talked about. And their self-wisdom is really at a premium. So we believe that the next half year or so is really a time to invest in the right folks.